Hello viewers, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a pop-up model with a dynamic content in React.js. This is the final product of the project. I have several fonts displayed. When I click on one of the fonts or any of the fonts, for example this Samsung Galaxy A12, you should see a pop-up model displaying Samsung Galaxy A12, the price and more details. So as you can see, when I click, I have a Samsung Galaxy A12 price 16,499 Kenya shillings and more details about the phone. Now this pop-up model it closes when I click this button, and it also closes when I click outside the white space. You can see the content is dynamically displayed. So when I close and open Apple iPhone 7, you can see the model is displaying Apple iPhone 7, its price and more details about the phone. Welcome to Edge Concepts. My name is Aluko Godric. To save on time, I already have the app running in Chrome browser. I have created data.js file which contains the array of data which represents the list of fonts. I have created the images folder. Inside here I've stored the images of the fonts. So back in app.js, the first thing you're going to do is to clear this h2 that I created here. Then I'm going to start creating the divs and the classes that are going to be responsible for displaying the fonts and the pop-up model. So our first class is going to be app container. Inside the app container, we're going to display the font's content. So I shall give it a class of content container. Now I have already imported the fonts from this data.js, and I've also imported two hooks, that is the use effect and the use state hook, to help in state management. So the first thing I'm going to do inside this content container is to iterate over this array so that I'll be able to render the list of fonts. So I'm going to use the map method. So inside the curly braces, you're going to do the map method, which is fonts dot map method, which accepts a callback function as a parameter. So inside this callback function, we are going to have fonts. I mean font as a parameter to represent a single font. Then we are going to return a list of fonts. So each font is going to be inside a class, and give it a name of content card. So inside this content card, the first thing I'm going to display is the image using the template literals, and the fonts are located inside the images. then the name of the phone is going to be the name of the image is going to be phone dot image. Let's save this and see if we have the images being displayed. Yeah, you can see the images of the phones are here. So back to the editor, you're going to display the name of the phone, which is going to be phone dot product. Then we shall also display the price of each phone, which is going to be phone dot price. Supposed to be curly price. Then we're also going to display a button that is going to be responsible for toggling the pop-up modal, opening and closing the modal. So button tag, give it a name of details. Save that, add to the browser. You can see each phone has now the image, name, price, and details. So I'll give a price a currency of Kenya shillings. So after displaying the fonts, we're going to work on styling. So we have this app.css being imported here in app.js, and we're going to do our styling inside this app.css here. So the first thing we're going to do is to remove the default padding, margin, and box sizing. So padding is going to be 0. Margin is also going to be 0. And box sizing is going to be border box. Then we shall work on app container. This one is going to have a width of 100 view width, and a display of block. Then let's work on this content container. The content container is going to have a width of 100% of the container, parent container, or the parent div. So with it going to be 100%. Then display of grid. In a grid, template columns is going to have a repeat of 3 columns per row. And save that, head back to the browser. So we now have a grid display which has 3 columns per row. So let's work on the card, content card. The content card is going to have a display of block. And let's work on the image. The image is going to have a width of 100% of the parent. Then paragraph. The paragraph is going to have a margin of, let's give it a margin of 10 px, that is top bottom, and 20 px left right. Save that and head back to the browser and see the fonts are being displayed nicely. Now I need to work on the button. For the button, let's give it a padding of 5 pixel top bottom, then 10 pixel left right, background color brown, let's remove the border, so give it none. Let's also remove the outline. Then give it a margin of 20 pixel. Save that. Back to the browser. Here's our button. Then the content container, I'm going to give it a background color of very light gray. So this gray is going to be very light, almost white. We shall also give it a grid gap of 20 pixels to separate the cards. Then we are going to give it with a padding of 20 pixel all around. Then the card, give it a background color of white. Save that, head back to the browser. So the fonts are nicely displayed now, so we need to work up on the pop-up now. So we shall come to our app container and create another class. Let's call it pop-up content. Let me give it a name of a pop-up container. Inside the pop-up container we shall have a header. So let's give it a name of pop-up header. Inside the header we shall have a button that's going to be responsible for closing the pop-up. So give it a name of X. Then I need this. Save that. Head to the browser and see our button is here. We shall work on the styling later. The next thing we shall have is going to be body of this pop-up, or the content. Let's have the content. So let's give it a class of pop-up content. So inside this pop-up content, we're going to render a list which is going to be an array, dynamic array. We need to have an array of data that is going to contain one object only, and that one object is going to be the phone that is going to be clicked, so that if we click on Samsung Galaxy A12, the array will be updated with this object. When we click Infinix Smart, the array will be updated with Infinix. The Infinix is going to replace the Samsungs. So to do that, we need to create a state that is going to be responsible for that. So we're going to use this state hook. Let's give it a name of pop-up content. Initial state is going to be an empty array. So to be able to update this pop-up content, even the spelling is not correct, so we need to work on the spelling. It's pop-up content. So to be able to update the pop-up content, we create a click event on this button. So on click, you're going to have an arrow function here that is going to trigger a function that is going to be responsible for updating this content. So we need to create that function here. Let's give it a name of change content. It's going to be an arrow function. What this arrow function is going to do is going to accept a parameter. Let's call it phone. And that phone is going to be updated by this argument. And I'm going to give the function, so we're going to trigger the function here. So change content is going to have an argument of phone. It's phone. Now this phone is the object, the object of this dynamic render. That is when we mapped to it, iterated over the fonts, we were able to render a list of fonts. So each font is represented by this font. Each font object is represented by this font variable, which we have used as an argument here. So we shall be able to access this variable inside this function by using it as a parameter here. So what we are going to do, when the function is triggered, we are going to update the set pop-up. We're going to update the pop-up content by setting it to an array which is going to contain this phone object. So set pop-up content to an array which contains this phone object. Save that. So we are going to iterate over this pop-up content inside our modal content. So using the map method, I'm going to say pop, pop-up content, map, arrow function here with the parameter of, let's call it pop, is going to return now the data of the pop-up content. So let's return some paragraphs here. First one, let's give it a class. You can call it a pop-up card. So dot pop-up card. Inside this, we are going to have a paragraph to display the name of the phone. Let's give it, it's going to have a name of pop product, and the other one is going to be the price. So in Kenya shillings, going to be pop that price. Then the details, also in a paragraph, will be pop that details. Save that, head back to the browser. Let's click and see. So when we click, we have Samsung Galaxy A31. Then when we click on this Nokia 6, and see it's being updated together with its price. When we click on Samsung Galaxy A12, click, scroll, it's there. iPhone, it's there. So the content of the pop-up model is now being updated dynamically. So we need to work on the styling so that this will only appear when a button is clicked, and it's going to have a fixed display, cover these fonts with a background of semi-black, translucent black. So to do that, we are going to start styling this pop-up container. So first, we are going to give it position of fixed. Then top is going to be 0, bottom 0, left 0, right 0. Background color, let's leave it black. Save that and back to the browser. So this is our model. So we need a translucent color here. So to do that, we give this an opacity. Give it an opacity of 0.5. Save that. So our model is here. Then let's work on the we need to create another class that is going to wrap up this header and the pop-up content. So we are going to have another class here. Let's call it pop-up body. So that we wrap all this, wrap the header and the content. Save that, and let's style this body. So pop-up body, let's give it a width of 70%. Out of 70%. Then the pop-up container, let's give it a padding top. Padding top of 15%. Save that. Then let's give this body a background color of white. Background color white. Save that, then head back to the browser. So you see the content of the pop-up is now here. So this is like a wrapper of the pop-up, and this is the content. So let's center this by giving a pop-up body a margin of outer. Save that, and back to the browser. Then we also need to take this button to the right. So let's work on the pop-up header. So that header, sorry. Pop-up header, give it a bit of 100% of the parent. Then text align, take it to the right, so that, and the button goes to the right. And then you see if we refresh, the pop-up is still there. So to work on that, we need to have a state that is going to be responsible for opening and closing the pop-up. So we shall create that state here using the useState hook. Let's call it pop-up toggle. So in the initial state of this pop-up toggle is going to be false. Then we are going to say that this pop-up container is going to be open when this pop-up toggle that is true. So we use the conditional and rendering here. We're saying pop-up toggle we have the pop-up toggle and this pop-up container being displayed. Close it there, save it, and you can see it has disappeared. So to be able to open it, we simply need to set this state to true. So to do that, we need to set it when this change content is triggered. So after it has been triggered and the pop-up content has been updated, we want to set the pop-up toggle to true. Save that. So when we click, it comes up, but we need to be able to close it. So the best thing we're going to do is simply to set the pop-up toggle to be the opposite of the initial state of the pop-up toggle. So to do that, use the exclamation mark, then pop-up toggle, which means the opposite of this. Save that. And back to the browser, let's refresh this. So when we click, it comes up, so we need to be able to close that. So this is the button that is going to close. So on click, we need to trigger the change content here. Save. It appears, it comes up, it disappears. Now, we also need to be able to close the modal when we close outside this white space, so that when we close anywhere here, it closes. So to do that, I simply need to come to the pop-up container and trigger the change content function here. So on click, we trigger the change content. To save, click, it closes, open, click outside, it closes, open. But you also realize that when we click on the white space, still it's closing. So to avoid that, we need to change the propagation of the parent. The white space, I mean the white background, is presented by this pop-up body. So we need to prevent, the click event of the parent when we click on this pop-up body. So to be able to do that, we create a click event here, which is going to have a function, arrow function, with an event argument, I mean event parameter, so that when we click on this, we're going to have this event, prevent the propagation, stop the propagation of the parent. Let's save that. Then back to the browser, open our model, click outside, it closes, open, click on the button, it closes, open, click on the white space, it doesn't close. So let's refresh. It disappears. So we also need to work on this scrolling, so that when the model is open, the fonts are not being scrolled. So to do that, we need to create some dynamic styling on this content container. So the dynamic styling, we're going to achieve that still by using the use state hook. So you're going to create another state here that is going to be responsible for rendering a dynamic, styling. So what this is going to do is, let's first give it a name of styling. And initially the styling is going to be null. Then so the inner styling here is going to take this as the object. And take this as the styling. Now what we want is when we open the model, we need to change the styling to fixed. So to be able to do that, we are going to set this styling to an object which is going to have a position, fixed position. Set it to position fixed. Right. Position fixed. So open. There's no scrolling. Close. Still there's no scrolling. You know where the problem is. To fix that, we need to say that if the styling is equal to null, then we shall set the styling to this. If the styling is null, we are going to set the styling position to be fixed. Set it to an object. See, when we open the model, it's working. Now we need to work on this scrolling so that when the model is open, the scrolling is not happening on the font. So to achieve that, we need to say, create a styling You can see when the model is open, you know, the fonts are still being scrolled, and we don't want that. So to prevent that, we need to create some dynamic styling on the content container, you know, that is going to, when the pop-up is open, the pop-up model is open, the scrolling on the content container is not happening. So to do that, we need to create a step that is going to be responsible for, you know, the dynamic styling. So still using the useState hook, let's create a variable, name it as styling, and the initial state is going to be null. So let's give this an inner styling of styling. Save that. It's supposed to be null, not nulls. Then we need to say, you know, to be able to change this inside this change content function. First, let's move it up. Okay. Then when the model is open, we need to say that if the styling is null, null, then we shall set the styling to an object. This object is going to be having a position, property, which represents the properties of the styling. So position of fixed, right? Else, if it's not null, then we are going to set it to set the styling to null. Save that. We're supposed to have this down here. Save that. So open the model, no scrolling, close, scrolling comes back, open, no scrolling, close, scrolling comes back. So that is it. If you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more amazing videos. See you next time.